Buckle up for another episode of Ghost Facers, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Richard, and sitting shotgun, as always, is my brother in podcasting, Reed.
Yeah, I mean, what am I going to do? I haven't talked about a show in like a year now. I guess maybe I'll go grocery shopping. I'll cut the grass. I guess maybe I'll like fix stuff around the studio.
Hey, Reed, I'm back. And it's time to record.
I thought I threw you into that hole.
Oh, you did, but the hole spat me back out.
Oh god, yeah, go on.
Filled me full of syringes of white liquid.
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Ghost Facers! We're facing ghosts, we're others, we're not, we're ghost Facers! Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot. Ghost Facers! We're facing nightmare, we're facing dread. Ghost Facers! We're facing faceless, we're facing dead.
Welcome to Ghost Facers. Today we're discussing.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Good start.
We're supposed to.
Do you want to take it again?
No, I don't.
All
Let's
right.
keep it in.
All right.
Season 6, episode number 1. Exile on Main Street.
Yeah, baby.
And we are joined today by comedian, writer, and host of This Is Rad and Everything Is Scary podcast. Of course, it's the fucking premiere. It's got to be Kyle Clark.
Hey guys,
Welcome back.
6.
Wow.
What a journey it's been. My 6th episode of Supernatural is really I guess 7th because I watched the first episode. Didn't I? No,
this
I didn't. Yeah, this is episode 6 purely. Nice.
Well,
5.
no, this would be your 5th one then, right?
Yeah.
Because you would only have watched the premieres of seasons 2 to 6.
We can do math. Hold on.
We can. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I like it because as we go, I've seen less of the show.
I mean, yes, and the shit that they jump the shark so hard every season that you must be getting more and more disconnected.
I texted you that I have figured out the pattern that every season premiere is just like Dean's having trouble and Sam is dead.
I mean, it's crazy. You said that to me, and then I told it to Reed, and Reed was like, well, shit.
I mean, a version of that or something
Every
adjacent to
episode
it
I've seen, that
pretty...
is the plot, ultimately.
Somebody's dead, and Dean is confused.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it's not untrue.
Dean is dead. Sometimes Sam is dead.
Yeah.
I've
It's
never
not-
seen Dean be dead.
That was
That's
the
all
first
mid-season.
episode you watched.
No, season 4
The
is
first-
the one where he comes
okay, well,
back.
yeah, Dean is dead,
Yeah.
but he has to talk to Death. He's the most proactive
Oh, sorry,
character
that one,
even
yeah.
in Death.
Oh, yeah. So
Season
sorry.
2.
Oh, I guess they just alternate. They
This is
trade.
what I mean.
Yeah, they take turns.
Okay, somebody's dead and Dean is having a bad time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the sort of through line.
I mean,
there.
that pattern definitely continues. I mean, this is a weird one because ostensibly we talked about it a lot last season,
yeah.
but the show kind of had a bit of a 5-season idea,
Yeah.
and it basically did it. And for a bit, they thought that was it.
Well, yeah, up until
It wasn't just that
basically-
they had an idea and then they were like, hey, we'll do something else. They thought the show was done, and that it wasn't. And so we kicked
And it
this
turns out
season.
it was 1/3 done.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
So now
1/5
we're
done.
into this, like, it kind of,
Oh,
it
third.
really feels like a new era for the show, for me at least, because we're like into kind of like uncharted territory.
in a lot of different ways, and we would have just talked about it in our sort of like pre season episode that we just did, but yeah, I mean, they going into this, like, they Eric Kripke leaves as the showrunner. Sarah Gamble, previous
takes over,
writer,
right?
is now the showrunner. So, and they're now trying to figure out, like, after you finish a story, how do you create more?
Yeah, once you've finished with the biblical apocalypse and that's all wrapped up nice, then like, what's next?
Yeah, exactly. Kyle, going into this episode, what did you remember and what were you expecting?
I mean, the last premiere I feel like was one of the more vaguely sort of standard app premieres, right? Because that's the one where they're fighting. Is Castiel introduced or something?
Because season
along those
4, Castiel gets introduced, right?
Yeah, season 4.
So he's
premiere
in the
Castiel.
5 episode.
Yeah.
Because that's how I know he exists.
Yeah.
So what is season 5 intro?
The season 5 intro is the boys have been like beamed away from the cage opening.
Oh, that's right.
They ended up on that plane, and then the plane crashed, but they survived.
Yes.
No,
it didn't crash. It landed.
Did it?
Yeah. They got put into the plane and then they just got off.
Oh, okay. Whatever.
It was like a rebuilding season.
Yeah.
It's it was interesting because like the start of this season, because it's starting from such a cold spot from whatever the finale is, was interesting. I am worried where this season goes.
You're right to worry.
And especially knowing that the show goes on for quite a while longer, and it doesn't entirely feel like the kind of show that's gonna like quite mess with its cast and format the way other shows might. And so I really like that Dean partner character, and there's no way she's not fucking dead along with her kid.
Oh yeah, Lisa.
There is they don't stick around for 15 seasons, that's for sure.
No.
But so the big
Which
thing
is disappointing because it's kind of the first time Dean has been a little bit more of like a well-developed character beyond like, you know, person I'm arguing with, I'm really tired you disagreeing with my plan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the big interesting thing, right? I mean, you're absolutely correct. And this is the turning point for Dean. And when I think bringing in Sarah Gamble as the new showrunner, the boys get a lot more well-rounded for sure. And Dean specifically, I think, gets a really great character art for basically the next. I mean, this is
almost like a re-pilot, though.
Yes,
right.
It
Like,
feels that way.
Yeah, it's very much
feels like a hard reset.
Yeah.
And they kind of have to. I mean, you get put in that position, right? Like, imagine you are now running a show and they're like, okay, we finished our story. I don't know. Do you want this now?
It's interesting within the show that like it is an early example of the problem of going too hard, too fast in your show.
Right.
Is like, if you end the world too fast, you kind of have nowhere to go after that. And it makes me think of a Hellboy, because like Hellboy ends the world, but like they get as much mileage as they can out of pre-end of the world, and then by the time you're sort of running out of things, it's like, oh well, time to kill all of Nebraska.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that they do pick up the ball. This season is definitely a bit of like unsteady waters for sure. I think
this season's a bit unsteady, and I think next
there is like 2 of the best episodes of the entire series are in this season.
And next season is kind of like like it has a trajectory, but it's sort of like it's okay. And then I'd say 8 through 11 are like amazing.
Yeah,
just a little dip again, and then like somehow season 14 and 15 are incredible.
Some of their best of the series.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. It never fully collapses in on itself.
No, and guess what it also doesn't do? It doesn't stop jumping the shark.
Yeah, that's true. Constant escalation.
You would think after the apocalypse you can't jump more sharks, and they were like, ha ha ha, oh sir, I beg to differ.
We have this whole other tank of sharks.
Low grade apocalypse, because like things seem pretty normal still.
We were talking about that.
We were talking about it because it's all so localized to America. They're like,
and also a cemetery.
Yeah.
It's got that sort of sense of scale that is interesting. That's very like, you know, mid-budget 80s horror movie where it's like, if we don't stop what's happening in this one room.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But don't worry, because eventually they really start pulling out the stops in the later season.
Oh god, I can't wait until we get to that one.
Oh yeah, let's just say there is some wire work that eventually comes in.
Woo!
But why don't we start talking about this episode?
Is the idea that adding wire work to a one-room apocalypse is somehow really ratcheting up the tension?
I mean,
they go flying, guys.
Listen, when we get there, we might make you watch a season finale instead of a premiere, because it's kind of legendary.
There are 2 season finales at the end that are
pretty wild.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we start talking about today's episode, which aired September 24th, 2010.
Where were you?
Still in 2010.
Where were you? September 2010.
Hashtag never forget.
Late September 2010.
Ooh, I'm in grad school.
Are you?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm teaching the children of South Central. and writing papers and doing a
Interesting.
lot of open mics.
I just started college. Yeah.
September 2010. I've graduated university, but I'm now back there working as a TA and an assistant director and stuff.
September
like that.
24th, I would have just gotten my government money to go to school for the first time.
I wouldn't have dropped out of my grad program yet. I would be in a master's program actually at this point.
Look at both of us?
Yeah.
Does America have like a grant program, like a?
I'm not sure if you saw in the news, but we're the opposite, where people actually want people to be punished for having to get loans to go to college. It's
But does the government give the loans? Like, do you get those? Oh,
no.
okay.
Predatory private companies do. There are places where you can get
Predatory private companies in America. That doesn't sound right.
It's actually what it says on our flag now. And then, yeah.
So they
In all of the
okay,
red
costs
stripes,
$1.
there's just terms and conditions.
It's a barcode now that you scan, and it says you're gonna die here in the gutter.
I remember when I got that loan for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, I'm rich."
Uh-oh.
Two,
You're not rich, you're just Canadian.
yeah. I was like, two. It's time to buy the most expensive Mac I can get,
I mean, that sounds like you,
and a bunch of like stuff for my like house.
Mr. Expensive Tastes.
Man,
No idea what you're talking about, man.
I tried to spend so much of college rocking a Linux computer.
Oh,
You were that guy, huh?
Of
Twice,
course you were.
Two different times.
What Linux operating system were you running?
Ubuntu.
Oh, Ubuntu! Hell yeah!
This is
Loved
all
it.
good stuff to keep in.
Look,
Oh, absolutely.
this is great content. Ubuntu is great because it's basically.
I
the
would
most,
say-
like,
See,
I would-
if I
would
said this
say
on my
that-
podcast, it would be the most popular thing I said all episode.
I would say that this conversation is the season 6 of podcast content.
There's a
Fuck
lot
you.
of potential that never quite gets there.
Yeah.
Anyways, this episode was written by, of course, Sarah Gamble,
Yes.
the new showrunner, and directed by the infamous Phil Ascriccia,
Screech.
one of the sort of like big returning directors
Yeah.
that they always have.
Yeah.
This episode was viewed by an estimated 2.90
Hey, that's pretty good.
million viewers.
That's pretty
That's
good.
Incredible.
If that were a show now, it would be like, we gotta make this our new god.
But
Yeah.
that's more than the finale of season
Yeah,
5 when the
yeah.
show was like ending.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Considering the average for last season was 2.64, to have it as 2.9 is incredible.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah. Oh, fools.
I got to imagine that number drops steeply by the end of season 6.
I can highly imagine that's true.
It's wild because this show's doing a reset, and like by this point in time, season wise, like the X-Files is just starting to go. Like, is this ship starting to make some creaky sounds?
Was it still going? It wasn't going in 2010 though. It was already over.
No,
Oh, yeah, it was
in
over,
like
yeah.
early 2000s. But,
Yeah.
because they did 7 seasons.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank God it came back and was so great, right?
7
Look,
seasons was
y'all-
a sweet spot for a bunch of shows, though. There are like
Truly. I mean, that's-
multiple Star Treks end at 7 seasons.
Yep. I maintain 5 always seems like kind of the golden run. Like you get
Yeah.
your thing, you get out. If you
I
want to
mean-
do something else with it, there's still stuff on the bone that you're walking away with.
No, if
Yeah.
you push it for 15, you end up getting better ones.
Yeah, but it's what you want to do is stop for a long time and then come back
With Kumail
after-
Nanjiani.
after the first movie revival did not play at all, and do almost the exact same run again, but with episodes that
With Joel McHale and Kumail Nanjiani. With the
well,
two.
look. I think the
top
thing that we
comedic
all
act-
said about the original X-Files that it was lacking was major comedy bang bang.
Yeah.
Like I think we can all
Did they
agree
do that to the X Files?
Yeah.
they sure did. It's just full of UCB people. It's the thing that we will all mock about the last decade at
Good
one
Lord.
point or another is just going like, man, you guys just were addicted to putting comedy bang bang actors in this stuff because the person producing it was like, they're so funny.
I mean, that's the big problem with Hollywood in general. Yeah.
Oh, weird.
People just get seduced by Largo and we're like, we should just cast everybody here in something.
Yeah, let's all pray to the gods of killing UCB so that we can find a new place for comedy.
It's it's wild shit. It's It's a real.
Anyways,
sometimes you look and how did I describe it recently? It was like, man, I was really in UCB till I didn't have $400 anymore.
That's fair.
So I sent both of you got to see the promos for this week.
Yeah,
there's 2 promos. One is basically setting up the season, and one sort of recapping the previous season, and one is sort of talking about this episode. So Kyle, what did you think about those 2 promos that I had sent you?
They were both much shorter and less informative than I thought they'd be. Because the one for last season, as you described as recapping last season, if you didn't see last season, you're sort of like, when is this all from?
The recap one is interesting because it has such like an intense energy. It feels like it's building to a season finale, but then it goes like, and everything was settled. Come on back.
Yeah, why would you want to watch more?
Yeah.
I think the previously on, the weakest previously on of all the ones that I've seen so far, because like the last 2 were wildly informative. Like they really are like, here's some shit you got to know. And on this one, it's like, I don't know. We thought the show was done. Dane's hanging out over here now. Sam's gone. Don't worry. And it's like some shit almost ended. They stood in front of a big old hole.
Yep. And then what about the other
Dad
one?
Mentioned. And then the other one for the episode, the promo. Yeah. Pretty accurate. It kind of underplays. They show a picture of Sam, and so they really burn the big surprise of the episode. I'm kind of glad I didn't see that promo until after I'd watched the episode.
Oh, fair.
Because they really burn through a fair amount. The only thing you miss out on is the cousins end up being a nice reveal.
Right. Yeah.
And they're fun for characters who will for sure be dead in episode 2, I assume. This is a show where like the one of the handful of not flaws, but like interesting things I have found with it is that they really program you to sort of like feel nothing for any support character except for Bobby.
It's an interesting
They're
thing.
very careful about who they let you get attached to.
So far, but it's also like you just can't get attached because every one of them will die. You know that because 6 seasons in, it is still the only original 3 actors that you see regularly.
Which is funny because this is the point in which the show is still wildly popular. And I mean, for a CW show for sure. And this is the point where they start going, well, because Eric Kripke is now much less precious about the show and he's not the showrunner anymore. They start trying to, in the next few seasons, you're going to see some spinoffs start to try to happen. You get some pilots for spinoffs that don't ever turn into anything, and some returning characters that end up becoming like series regular. This is really,
and a sort of expanded female supporting cast over the next little while.
Like some really strong female cast members start coming in.
And they're not brutally killed after a 2 episode.
No, this is really the turning point. This is why I sort of love as badly as everybody bashes the Sarah Gamble sort of seasons, she brings in like a feminine energy that's like desperately needed to this show.
She sort of sets the groundwork for what the really good later seasons build on.
Yeah, without her, none of it would have been able to happen.
It's a little bit, and I think it's what is interesting / frustrating about this episode is I kind of love domestic Dean, and part of me wishes that the show had the balls to have a whole season where they're separate, because like modern shows get love it or hate it, like do way more of that where they're willing to separate characters and have kind of parallel runs. And I think it's one of the real hallmarks of especially these early seasons really being rooted in old TV, which I love. But it is interesting that this is such a show with one leg in 2 different versions of television.
Yeah.
And I think,
that's
when
true.
it's at its best, it's doing both incredibly well. But I think like sometimes like Dean gets so frustrating because he doesn't really seem to grow or develop across the first 5 seasons. He kind of stays pretty stagnant. And seeing him now in this situation where he has all these different things, it's all right, I'm gonna throw this out and I apologize in advance. You can really see the similarities here between when Dean is out, and sort of similarly to sort of like when Paul Walker or Dom are fucking out in Fast and Furious.
Oh fuck yeah.
Like,
I
would have
rock hard
seen a run where like you are just sort of seeing Dean being torn between his 2 worlds for more than 46 minutes. And I love the idea of sort of like with Paul Walker, with Brian in the Fast and Furious, where like Brian's out. Like
Brian's
in
driving a
line, it's
minivan. He's dropping his kids off.
Yeah, don't you dare call Brian. He's out. And I think that
he's definitely not dead.
That's the saddest part of Furious 7. He starts driving that minivan.
Well, yeah, but then did you see goddamn 9 where the car pulls up?
Oh, in tears.
And that absolutely could have been. But can you imagine like that kind of situation? But then, because things are tough or something's going on or they just lost somebody or something like that.
Yeah.
And then a car fucking pulls up and then Dean gets out and goes like, okay, what are we doing? Like after
totally.
like a half a season or a whole season of him having side stuff going on.
I mean, you say that, wait until you see what happens if Dean's not around in this season is partly the problem.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell me that Sam's lightly incompetent? That guy whose solution has been to kill or die at the end of every problem?
I can't even begin to start explaining why it's not good because it's a huge reveal this season. But like, if Dean's not around, the room is sucked all the energy away.
But that also like is a character development thing. Is like you'd think after 5 seasons, like Sam would gain some level of leadership ability.
There's reasons. There things are explained, but it's crazy what happens. The thing that I
do love like the sort of eerie accuracy of like predictions and things.
I know
that we get
this
from
is
Kyle.
Why I can't enjoy television shows. Like,
I mean,
this is part of
it also speaks to just like the inherent understanding of like both sides of how television works.
Why the shows I enjoy tend to be slightly unhinged things, like a Yellow Jackets or a Cobra Kai, because it is entirely keeping me on my toes, and you don't watch the first 40 minutes of the pilot and go like, okay, I see where the entire season is going.
Yeah.
The thing is that this show does reward you for that mentality where it goes, oh, you understand how this is going to work, and we're gonna instead of trying to like subvert that, we're gonna applaud you for getting it. And I think it's a thing that the show does constantly, which just goes like, yeah, we know that we're making TV, and you know that, and like, good job.
Well, that's a bit of that CW energy that I kind of admire.
Yeah.
Taylor and I just finished the 5th season of Cobra Kai, which is phenomenal. It's my favorite show on television. But part of the reason I like it is I was saying to Taylor, it taps into CW energy in a way that people refuse to acknowledge, because I am not a watcher of a lot of CW stuff. I am a big defender of the CW. I 100%. Think it is a relatively important aspect of like modern television, because it's kind of the only place that's really like making TV-ass TV.
100%.
And is showing, especially in the last few years, that you can get super weird and still do like TV. I think that like Riverdale is one of those
great example.
And it's the only thing I can think to compare Cobra Kai to. Like Riverdale is the only other show on television similar to Cobra Kai where it's
has
just
Cobra
like,
Kai brought in magic yet?
No, but there is a full sword fight in a shallow pool, like it's a full like samurai battle.
I love that.
Multiple Ninja Turtle weapons are utilized over the course of actually all 4 Ninja Turtle weapons each have their own moment.
Do I need to watch Cobra Kai?
I'm surprised you haven't.
So
I haven't been, but that's because this is blasphemous, but like I think the Karate Kid kind of sucks.
Yeah, so do I. It's my
like
favorite
kind of
TV show.
Yeah.
It's Reed, what if I were to tell you that is kind of the meta of the show?
Then I'm in.
The reason I think it works so well as a show is because it's like, hey, the thing we're pulling is absurd, but what if instead of trying to make it modern and gritty, we created a reality where only the logics created in the Karate Kid are allowed to exist?
I mean, that's kind of amazing.
So what if an entire community was run by karate?
What if the San Fernando Valley was the only place in the world that matters, and it was every man, woman, and child there is committed to karate being the most important thing? Youth karate is the most important thing in the world.
Everyone has a dojo alliance.
Yes. You have no idea how accurate that is.
It's basically Pokemon.
I kind of love that. Yeah, I sort of love that actually. Now I gotta watch Cobra Kai.
And it's got everybody switching teams. It's very Dragon Ball Z, like in a lot of it, where there's chunks where it's like, well, now we're just training and talking.
Hell yeah.
So it's interesting watching that, which is such a like modern thing that I think is doing something interesting with like television storytelling that is sort of this hybrid of a lot of like classic tropes of not just like having the great weird anime energy to it, but also like having soap opera energy to it and having like drama energy to it, and combining all these that I think a lot of times are the strengths of CW shows, is how not ashamed they are to be what they are.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And it's interesting seeing this show because it's clearly such a point of transition from One Tree Hill, Dawson's Creek kind of.
I will say One Tree Hill, though, gets weird by the second half of it. It's
Sure.
a thing that...
Do you know a lot about One Tree Hill?
Oh, I've watched the full thing twice. One Tree Hill does like a time... I do, yeah. One Tree Hill weirdly jumps time halfway through it.
Oh.
It's so crazy. It's a thing you would never expect, but it's actually really good.
Are you aware the same thing happens in the show The L Word, where the last couple seasons are a hardcore murder mystery?
That's true. Yes.
That was I learned about this, and then it was funny because there was a friend of mine who was on camera at a job I used to operate on, and she is a gay gal of a time period where she would have been watching that show. And I was like, hey, I'm going to ask a real presumptive question. Did you watch The L Word? And is the last 2 seasons insane? And she literally was like, oh my God, yes.
That's incredible. I heard the new L World's actually really good too.
It's supposed to be good. I assume dramatically less murder mystery. I assume that they're trying to be the first half of that show. And so I'll hold out until
to its detriment,
dead,
I think.
and they got to figure it out. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I think that like jumping into bringing the to lack of a better word, supernatural elements to CW programming was like, wait a minute, we can combine some like Xena and Hercules genre energy and intermingle it with like horny teen energy. Did we just get a license to print money? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if we get the rights to a goddamn DC show, the damage we could do after we did Smallville? Smallville is a show where, like, again, you want to talk later seasons, where there was a live action Justice League that was shot, and we were all just like, we can't be bothered.
Yeah, I mean, they were all just like, what if every superhero costume was a hoodie?
Love it.
All right,
then it'd be Hot Topic.
International titles for this week. I love having Kyle on. So the title from this episode is from the Rolling Stones 1972 double album of the same name, Exile on Main Street.
All right.
So what did people call it from across the world?
Exile on Main Street. Okay. I like The Quiet Life is like something like that out there.
Angry domestic man learns secret.
No. I love that. Largely fairly similar.
Watch out for possums.
The first one, the Hungarian title.
Okay, the Hungarian was the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's Killer Neighbor. Or
largely two of these definitely still try to put the word exile in there.
Okay.
So we've got the Hungarian title is the Exiled One.
Okay. Wow, pretty intense. Hungary, Jesus.
The German title. I do really like this one.
He was just following orders.
Yeah, you can't say that for all of them.
We went to 2 different angles there.
I appreciate it. We hit both sides of the joke.
Supernatural. Get the candy quote in there.
I'm loving the nihilism here. It's normality as exile.
Oh, Jesus, Jeremy. Good Lord. Christ.
That's where KMFDM got their title from.
Normality as exile? Holy shit.
Yeah. I would listen to that.
Yeah.
We had that. That's a 90s industrial record I'm all about.
Good God.
As we all know, any life that says normal is basically nothing.
We're sort of all in exile from each other.
Yeah. And the final one is the French title.
Oh, the French title has to be like, sweet, sexy Lisa, or something like that.
The erotic brothers are reunited.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Les frères heureux. That's a Frasier joke for anyone.
The title is L'adieu aux armes.
Oh, okay. Farewell to Arms? They call this episode Farewell to Arms?
Yeah.
Change things from a music reference to a book reference.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So those are the...
If anything, it's like a welcome back to Arms.
Yeah.
Did they get less budget coming back? Because the music clearances are much, much, much reduced this episode.
It definitely is.
Or is it because they had to pay for one Rolling Stone song?
I mean, well, they don't actually pay for the titles, I think, because I think it counts as like.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Oh, and they don't play it in the episode, huh?
No, I mean that's always your big gripe, right? They call it something and then don't play that song.
Well, the titles are always the song that is much more expensive to clear than the episodes that are in there.
Yes.
The songs that are in there.
I think a big problem is too is they really fucking blew their load in 5 seasons on songs that make sense for this show, and so it's like at a certain point, like we're running out of like the big songs from those artists.
Yeah, we're getting into a lot of C and D sides now.
But that's where you're getting to the really good stuff because like I want the show to be blasting some fucking Nazareth's Hair of the Dog. Like I mean,
oh hell yeah!
Obviously, like Bobby's got to be like, now you're messing with the son of a bitch. Like,
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because they definitely pull away from it for the next few seasons. Like I can't think of like the music cues that you had gotten in the first 5 seasons, and I don't know if it's gone away or if I just didn't recognize.
I think
them.
it's just maybe you just don't clock it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the feature music from this week was "Beautiful Loser" by Bob Seger.
Right.
Yes.
Great track.
Which was a fucking phenomenal cue. Like I was like,
Yeah.
okay, episode, you got me. You played Seeger.
Hell yeah.
You played Seeger while a sad guy works.
I mean, if you like Seeger while a sad guy works, just wait for your rewatch.
Oh yeah.
TV Guide describes this episode as the 6th season begins with Sam being released from hell and trying to convince Dean to rejoin him in fighting evil.
Jesus Christ.
To help persuade him, Sam introduces Dean to a new family led by their grandfather Samuel.
Wow. Never mind. You don't need to watch this.
Yeah,
we
good.
got you covered.
Surprise!
TV Guide.
Jesus, that might be the biggest like spoiler.
That's a pretty big one. They've had some doozies before, but that's a pretty big one.
Good God. So before we start talking about this week's episode, why don't we open up Dad's journal and learn about some of the real world lore?
Yeah.
Ooh,
you know,
lore.
when you hang up the guns and the salt and the holy water and all of that, what monster is left?
Oh yeah.
So let's see what the lore says
Only
about
your own internal boredom.
Let's see what the lore says about lawn maintenance.
Wow, good thing I don't say the real world monster anymore.
We're having a quiet life. What other lore is there? So I've pulled up some top tips for a healthy lawn.
Legitimately, what you?
Yeah, this is from a Canadian government website. Tips about a healthy lawn. So
why is the Canadian government giving advice for that?
I don't know.
They already gave you college money. You guys are really underestimating what your government's doing.
I mean, they do want that money back, unfortunately.
Got some good tips here. So number 1, mow high. Cut your grass to a height of 6 to 8 centimeters. You know, this height will promote.
Some guys are lucky if they can get 6
It'll
to 8
promote
centimeters.
growth, prevent weeds. It'll scourge insect pests. You want to water deeply, but not too often. You know, promote the growth of deep roots. You can place a small pet food or tuna can on the lawn to help you measure how much water's been applied.
Cool.
You know, stop watering when the can's full. Wow. You got to feed your lawn with compost. Let the grass clippings stay on your lawn to provide nutrients. You don't need to bag those up. It's nature's way. Aerate. You're going to want to aerate your compacted soil, ideally in the fall.
I had a job at doing aeration, like door to door.
That was a classic sort of like high school summer job.
Did you have
sort
the
of
cool
scenario?
shoes?
No, I had just a big machine I walked around.
Yeah. So aerating.
Like the idea of like you mind if I aerate your lawn, and then it's just some guy slowly walking across your lawn with his hands in his pockets.
That's very fun. No. You got gloves that also have.
I've never seen that. I've only ever seen the machine. Yeah, so it helps with water, air, and nutrients. They reach the roots more easily. Hey, you want to overseed your lawn. Sow new seed over thinned areas. Choose ground covers for tough spots. Replace grass with paving stones or mulch in heavy traffic areas. And you want to check your lawn often to detect pests and other problems early. You know, those are all kind of just good things to know. And that's all you're going to need to know anymore.
That's legitimately.
Yeah. Hey, we're living the quiet life now.
When did you?
That's the lore now.
When did you figure out this lore?
Last night.
Did you go, oh shit, there's no lore for this?
No,
episode?
I went, I have a funny meta idea.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. Cool, man.
That's it. Nothing bad will ever happen, and the lore is going to be home maintenance from now on.
Wow,
I'm
that's
into
every
it.
week. Our
HG this TV.
What are we in a hotel? That's when you watch HGTV. So good.
No, we watched a lot of Forged in Fire.
We did.
Yeah.
And that
Man,
weird.
I wanted to like that show.
And that weird show where the world was cars.
Oh, we can't talk about that right now. That's all. That's we can't. Not right
Weird
now.
animated show. All right. Well, why don't we get into this week's episode? But before we do, I've got a few behind the scenes information to talk about. So, one, obviously, we've already talked about it, but this is the first episode to air when Eric Kripke isn't the showrunner.
Right.
And the new showrunner is Sarah Gamble. But a really interesting fact that you may have just assumed it was based on the fact that this is sort of a normal life Dean, but Dean isn't wearing his signature leather jacket in this episode.
Right.
So, in September of 2010, new promo shots were being done for the upcoming 6th season. The shoot was done in LA, and the wardrobe was flown down from Vancouver a few days before and was stolen somewhere along the way.
Oh, no.
Items taken included one of Castiel's trench coats, Dean's leather jacket as well.
Wow.
Although the wardrobe had replacements for Castiel's trench coat, Dean's leather jacket was sadly one of a kind, and so we'll never see it again.
So someone out there just has.
But like, that's so crazy because like you can't wear that out.
No, it's such
Like,
a
that just has to like sit hidden in your home like Nazi artwork.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I've got like stolen stuff from TV shows, but not that. Like not like that big or that like.
I like the idea that this maniac just has like the Drive jacket and the like Guardians of the Galaxy jacket,
Right? Yeah,
and
yeah.
a Jones jacket, and it's just this nightmare jacket thief.
I do kind of love that now.
I do also like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Or what if it was Madame Tussauds?
Whoa. Yeah, we
Oh,
go
yeah.
in there, and it's
And
just
they-
because nobody
they
goes
made
in
it-
there. They didn't know.
They made it a Dean that was too hot and no jacket was gonna do except for the main jacket. Except they put it on him and he immediately melted.
Or it came to life, today's
yeah.
special style.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
love in an elevator style.
Yeah.
I went to LA once, and the girl I was dating and her family wanted to go to Madame Tussauds, and I was like, fuck that place. That creeps the hell out of me. And I never went inside.
I love a wax museum.
I don't know that I love one, but I'd go in.
I wouldn't go in. I went and
It
did
is.
something
Oh
else.
man, you gotta go. You can.
There's a
pose
really
up.
bad one in Niagara Falls.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
even better. That's the one I want to go to. The worse, the
course.
better.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. Yeah. I want it to not really look like the things.
Yeah, there's a bad one in Niagara Falls, Canada. That's worth it.
Yeah.
I think it's a.
That
It's like
one's
a.
kind
It's a
of famous
Ripley's.
Ripley's.
for how
Oh, is that
shitty
what
it
that
is.
Ripley's is?
There's a wax museum component to that.
They
Ripley's.
tend to come in tandem.
Yeah.
Like
Weird. All right. So we start with a then, but not really, because we actually start with a year ago.
Yeah, a whole year has passed.
We have, and it's really just a montage of Sam going into the cage, very slow music.
Yeah, so just to catch Kyle up, because he saw some of this,
Yeah.
ultimately what the plan they did was Sam let Lucifer use him as a vessel, and then he managed to take control of his body back, and he threw himself back into the cage that Lucifer was originally
Using the
in.
power
Are
of brotherly
you
love.
trying to tell me that Sam's power was to be possessed by something with the power of brotherly love? He died.
Yes.
Yeah, like he was possessed. Lucifer was beating the shit out of Dean. Sam caught a glimpse of an army man stuck inside
An
the
ashtray.
ashtray in the car. He got control of his body back, and he threw himself and Michael. So both Lucifer and Michael ended up thrown
Sam's
into the
addicted
cage.
to killing himself.
Yeah,
The moral of the story was the power was the friends we made along the way. Yeah.
the brotherhood.
We made along the
Yeah.
way. Yeah. And we ends up that this is actually not only just a past episode preview we're looking at. This is actually a dream that Dean's having.
Yeah.
Having a nightmare about the events that changed his life forever. He then basically wakes up next to Lisa.
I mean, that's the dream.
I mean, fucking, we could all be so lucky.
Yeah.
Lisa Braden, and then goes about a very like new normal day. Wow,
Now,
fucking
what did I
Seeger.
text you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dean domesticated. Now that's supernatural.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
It is.
That
super-
should have been the goddamn ad. Like, how did no one see that?
I know.
I mean, that's also true, but
You
So
do like
good.
a kind of funny ad, like the goddamn X-Files used to do, where it's like, tonight Mulder learns a thing or two about dogs. Arf, arf. I like dogs. Arf, arf. The X-Files tonight.
Man, you should have been making promos for the show for 5 seasons.
I was as a child. They did not take my submissions. They did not want ads from Millennial for the show Millennium read by a 12-year-old.
I do like
Tonight,
this.
Lance Hendrickson's gonna save us all.
I do like this montage.
Yeah.
Like
Seeger.
But also, I'm a real sucker for you're doing something in one life and now you're doing a different version of it in a different life.
Yeah.
This is not the first time Supernatural has done this, and I'm a big sucker for it. Like Dean working with the circular saw,
But it's also weird because
then,
Dean's life seems great.
yeah,
Like
he's working
cool
construction.
Son,
He's
hot
got a
wife that loves him, decent job, lovely home.
Yeah.
And like a couple of kind of like dude friends local that you're definitely cooler than. Like it's a pretty sweet setup.
yeah.
Yeah,
Have
I
a
love
hidden
it. It's a
car
great
full
life.
of weapons. Like
It's a great gig, but I love that thing of like he's using the saw at the site, but then we get that clip from the vampire episode where he's cutting the like. I love that. I think the song works really well. I do like the idea that like we needed that time jump too to be like we've had enough time for Dean to settle into this a bit.
Also, I know we've got a bunch of psych heads out there, but the yellow truck in the beginning of this episode was the exact same one that Henry Spencer drove in Psych.
Oh, okay.
TV show
a
from
little
2006.
psych nod.
That's right.
You know, USA very much same energy as CW.
Yes, less weird, but
Yeah,
similar vibes.
but also like a show that had like quietly just like hits.
Yeah,
You know, had Monk, had Burn Notice, had Psych, like
Monk.
had all
Monk
of
was
these,
a great
these
show.
things.
And Burn Notice, actually. My dad's a big Burn Notice guy.
Yeah.
Burn Notice is one of those shows that is beloved by millions and is just never brought up because it's not showy.
yeah. It's the USA Network, CW, if the edges were sanded off.
Yeah. I also like I have a
CW for
affection
seniors.
The USA shows because like I remember the generation before they figured out what to do. I don't know if either of you guys are familiar with the television program Pacific Blue, which was about it was, hear me out. What if there was a show that explored the dangers and adventures of the everyday life of beach-based bike cops? Now, what if I told you when they needed to get the show zhuzhed up a little, they added Mario Lopez to the cast?
Oh, no.
Go check out Pacific Blue, everybody. This was USA's fucking
How
thing.
do you
It was
ruin
that
the
and
concept of Baywatch?
that's exactly what it is. It's Baywatch with no TNA, and instead, like, it's like, what if Baywatch was also Hill Street Blues?
Jesus.
You have not sold a single person on this show.
Good
Oh
Lord.
man! Then can I sell you on the TV versions of La Femme Nikita or Silk Stockings?
I have watched the TV version of La Femme Nikita, actually.
I knew that already in my heart.
Yeah.
You're a dad.
So we then cut to one night. Dean is at a bar with his friend Sid.
I kind of like this scene because they're hanging out and Dean is hanging out. Like he has made the active choice to go out and spend time with Sid.
He is hanging out with a dude that he has nothing in common with.
He has nothing in common with, but he's also like not interested. So like what I like about this scene is that like Dean could just stay home and be like, I don't want to go out tonight.
But he's got to play the part.
But he does go out and he does play the part. Like that's how they're showing.
He's trying.
They're showing the effort. That's exactly it. But like, it's not what he is.
No.
Some of this life is what he wants, but it's not what he is, you know? And I think that's what I like about this scene. Because the guy is like saying something. He's like, hey, tell me more about you. It's been a year. And
that was pretty funny. The thing that's interesting about but it also like you could interpret this whole episode of Supernatural as also like really like there is a sobriety metaphor in this.
1,000%.
Oh,
he
sure.
is bored, and theoretically, like it is sort of a tragedy that like he goes back to that life. Because like it is one of those things where it's like it's not, it's one of those things where it's like it's not like the existence he has is bad, it's just boring. And that is a thing that most addicts and alcoholics talk about,
right?
Is like once you've removed that crazy part of your life, like you're happier and things are better, but also you've been so used to living on that weird knife edge of danger that like you do end up staring at people and going like, oh, this is boring. And I love the idea that like what Dean could do is make different friends.
Yes, yeah, he could make cooler friends. Yeah.
But I think like
because Sid is a real wet blanket.
Yeah,
He's like
Sid is
the
just
old ball
nearby.
and chain or whatever.
But like there's probably some cool Dean-esque guys
Is it
somewhere
just
in that
me?
area.
Is it just me or is Sid also always sweaty?
Yes.
He is a little wet all the time.
I think that there's a component of it where Dean doesn't know that you could do better, so he's just like, well, I guess this is what life is. Like, he wouldn't think to find other people.
Even the fucking hunters are just like, well, you had 1 year exactly. Like, you couldn't get all your shit together and live a normal life in 365 days, then you're out.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
You couldn't undo an entire lifestyle or like lifetime of programming.
Insane. But he leaves that bar and ends up hearing a woman screaming.
Yeah.
And goes into a breaking and entering situation.
Hang on. We do need to just mention first that while they're sitting there, the waitress comes over and goes like, here's the bill, and kind of flirts with Dean, and Sid is like, I think she likes you. And Dean's like, yeah, I think so. And he holds
How
up
you like them apples?
Her number, and Sid is like, man, you're so fucking cool.
And Dean's like, yeah.
He's like, no, I've got a
Dean
cool
has a line
who knows my secrets.
Dean has a line that I think is funny where he says like, it's like they're attracted to unavailable guys. Like, who knew?
Because the thing he's been doing for his entire life is trying hard.
But yeah, I mean, he's been unavailable emotionally. That's also worked for him in the past.
I feel like that's worked 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So he grabs a flashlight from his work truck and goes to investigate the. But
he also grabs a giant gun.
Yes, a big old gun.
He there's posters on the door that he opens that are for a DJ called DJ Sam, which I think is funny.
Oh, that's fun.
What if that was sort of the thing where I'm like, what if that was Sam and Sam's been working as a DJ?
Yeah.
I mean, one day we might get to see a version of that.
Dean sees them and he's just got like white pants and no shirt and covered in glitter, just fucking dropping somehow for the time Dua Lipa songs.
A big moose helmet.
Oh my god! Yeah. I love that. That was also great for January 6th.
We find out he was Marshmallow this whole time.
It makes so much sense. So he goes into this building where the scream came from and finds scratches and blood on the walls.
Yeah.
He returns home and searches the police records for a missing persons report, but he finds nothing.
I like a couple of things that are happening in this sequence. So one, Dean's instinct to go and check it out and investigate and help, obviously that's in there.
Yeah.
But Dean is also like palpably more scared than we usually see him.
Yeah.
Which is like both a way to show
to lose now.
He's got stuff to lose. He's been out of the game a bit. Like, I like that. And the fact that he has the presence of mind not to just scour that building top to bottom, but to like go home, put in a call. Like, has anyone gone missing? No. Okay, I guess that's fine then. Like,
it also feels like those things where I'm like, Dean, this also feels absolutely like all the hallmarks of a trap.
Yes.
This is the thing, though, which is this version of Dean. He obviously can get. He's going to eventually get back into the game.
Yeah.
No surprise there. But the changes that are happening here, hang on. Like he never fully leaves this new life. I think it's a thing that will affect him for the rest of the series, and he fully has changed from this moment on.
Lisa's brutally killed.
You don't know what happens. Just wait, and it might be worse than that, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't like that at all.
Yep,
that's maybe the thing that is turning me off on the show. Is the first thing is just that like they are a little like more callous than is palatable at times in strange ways.
The Lisa thing affects Reed in a big way.
We can't get into it yet.
It just sucks that they kill a single mother who loves a character and has done nothing wrong.
It's worse than that.
It's worse. Oh. That's all I'll say for now.
It's gonna get Game of Thronesy.
Just worse. In a different way. So the next morning, as he travels,
better not get Madeline Pryor, or I'll be real upset.
There is a moment where Lisa comes in.
Reed's face is just a readable book.
I don't want to talk about it. It's hard for me.
It's the hardest episode Reed has watched in the series.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Anyways, so she comes in, and there's a really cute moment where he's very like, I was watching porn.
yeah. I'm not listening to the police scanner.
Yeah, and
it makes me think of the fucking Incredibles, right? Where it's like he's in the garage, like listening to the thing. Yeah.
It would have been funnier if he had porn behind the police scanner as a like plausible deniability.
I mean, it is Dean. Yeah.
We get some busty Asian beauties. Yeah, his favorite. Yeah.
There is a really great moment where she's very much just like, I know you're fucking lying. Like,
yeah. Well, because it's been it's been a year, and she's like, you're an emotional wreck. You're bad at lying to me.
Also, look at me. You're not cranking it.
Yeah.
But the next morning, as he travels to work, he finds again small scratches outside of a house.
Yeah, like on a street light, like a post, a lamp post.
He investigates further.
Took me so long to find that word.
Yep. And it's actually like an electric pole, I think. But he investigates further, finds a garage, opens the door, and
it's like a shed. Yeah, he's because there's scratches on like a linen, like hanging on the clothesline, and then he hears stuff in this shed. He's got the gun out. He opens the shed. It's just like a little dog.
So good.
And then Sid is like,
no, Sid is not wrong in this scene at all.
No, Sid is running by and he's like, Dean, is that a gun?
Like, if you walked by your neighbor and they'd broken into a different neighbor's house and we're holding if nothing else, Sid is covering for him there. He is giving him benefits of the doubt on benefits of the doubt. Like,
yes, yeah. Well, I'm assuming that they've made some sort of cover story for him that he's fucking weird. But
he tells him he's an exterminator, but also exterminators tend to not shoot each individual animal with a gun.
Yeah, because when they were at the bar, Dean doesn't want to divulge stuff, but he goes like, I used to live on the road a lot, and I was
did jobs nobody wanted.
I was in pest control or whatever. And then in this one, he's like, is that a gun? And Dean's like, yeah, I thought it was a possum. And he's like, you're gonna shoot it? He's like, they got rabies, man. You gotta watch out for possums.
So in fact, rabies are extremely rare in possums.
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like Sid's looking at him going like, oh man, this Dean guy might also be weird about vaccinating things. Like, I feel like I'm learning a lot about him.
Or he's like, this guy's got a real drug problem. So his hunter instincts kick in, and he quickly makes his way back to his garage.
Yes.
Where because he finds sulfur on the ground of the shed.
Yeah.
And we find the old car, the Impala's in there, and hunting gear are all safely stored.
I also, this is a trope I love, where it's like, I've left the life behind. Let's put a tarp over this thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that
it's funny because that's also a conceit in Yellow Jackets at one point. There is also like a hidden car that hides.
Oh, yeah.
I love that as just like a real cliche kind of trope. It's like, we're done.
Hammer to the cement.
Well, I mean, this is truly like, he brings out a big fucking thing at one point that has his
John Wick rig
that has his jacket. It's like, I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
So that's when Lisa shows up, and she's just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And
are you crazy again?
And he's just like, no. I just thought I was crazy, but I'm not. But funny idea. Why don't you take Ben to the movies? Because I get OCD about this stuff.
Yeah. He's basically saying, let me work out my crazy and be double sure that I'm just
being crazy.
And she's like, all right.
What movie do you think they went and saw in 2010?
September 2010. Oh, but it's a year after, so it's actually May. Or June, because it's like when that season ended.
Oh,
because it's a year later.
Interesting.
So is it 2011 then?
I guess we have to catch up, right?
Interesting. So do they do a jump, or is it May of 2010?
Well, I don't know, but let's see.
Fact that at some point in the background,
June 2011 movies released. Let's see what would be a good movie.
What's a kid movie?
Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Okay.
Sure,
could have gone and seen that.
Green Lantern.
Oh no,
that's for sure what they went and saw.
That kid definitely wanted to see Green Lantern.
If you're a kid of his age and you got to pick between the two,
There's that. There's Cars 2. There's Rio. There's Transformers Dark of the Moon.
Oh, they might have saw Dark of the Moon.
Romeo and Juliet.
I do like that throughout all of the stuff.
Kid.
Rango. Could be Rango.
Could be Rango.
Mars Needs Moms.
Definitely not. No one saw that, so it was impossible to buy a ticket.
I do like the idea that of all of the stuff that's going on with him, with that kid right now.
Oh, Fast 5. He's obviously seeing Fast 5.
And all of the stuff that's happened to him, the most traumatic thing that's happened to him during this period is that he saw that Green Lantern movie.
Yeah, well, he had to watch Martin Jordan explode 4 times.
Yeah. So Dean's starting to go through his gear now, and he notices that the lights are flickering, and immediately picks up his shotgun.
Yeah, and this is a good sequence where he's like wheeling around, and then there's like a soccer ball moving, and he hears a thud, and
he goes to look where the soccer ball is, and there's nothing there. He turns around. Suddenly, who the fuck is there? Baby, we're going back.
It's fucking Azazel.
Azazel shows up, and Dean immediately shoots him, but it has no effect.
We've said it a million times. I love that actor.
He's so
and the fact
good.
they brought him back for what is essentially, spoiler alert, a hallucination.
I love
but
it.
they bring him back, and he's like, "Oh, you got a real nice life here, Dean."
I fucking love this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this scene too, because this is that's a like horror trope, action trope thing I always enjoy, is somebody going like, "You got a lot, and it's all gonna go." Like it's such a good ominous setup.
100%.
Yeah.
And Azazel then pins Dean against the cart and tries to kill him until, out of nowhere, Sam shows up.
Yeah.
And stabs Dean in the chest with a syringe of white fluid inside. The thing the fans have been asking for forever.
It's true. They are. I mean, last season we had the fan fiction thing. Now we have literal penetration.
Yeah, with white liquid.
Easy.
Sam fills Dean full of his white liquid, and Dean blacks out.
From exhaustion.
Yeah, and a little bit like leaks out at Dean.
Yeah.
Gross.
So hot.
Gross.
My brain went so many layers further, and I feel like as an adult I've learned to stop. It's a real
for whose sake?
That real post Mean Boys life.
Look, that's I've been
like
sgood by
Dean
Mean
sort of
Boys.
Squeezes it out as Sam watches, and then sort of like takes a little lick.
Good Lord.
Hell yeah.
Richard asked.
Jeez Louise.
Thank you.
This makes all those 9/11 jokes we were making a couple of weeks ago look way better.
Does it?
Yeah.
Does it?
Does it?
Your hierarchy is fascinating.
Let's not go into
That's a real Hermione moment you just had.
What's the next scene?
At number 2, we have 9/11, which means that number 1 for the 15th week in a row. Come.
Please tell me you're just doing a Casey Kasem impression there.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first on this podcast.
Top 10 subject matter of this podcast. Come 9/11.
Yeah. Top 10 incestuous moments on
Jesus.
Supernatural.
Good Lord.
Dean passes out and wakes up to find Sam looking over him.
I mean, continuing the fan fiction.
Yeah. Sam tells Dean that he has been poisoned and that it was not Azazel that he had seen, but merely hallucinations.
There's a big bro hug. Sam looks weird about it.
Well, what's
for reasons
weird
we'll
is
discover.
that, yeah, I mean, because Sam basically goes like, "I'm surprised you're not trying to like check if I'm possessed," and he drinks like holy water.
He does like the silver, like his knife.
Something it definitely is off though here, and
Yeah.
Dean doesn't even care. He just immediately hugs Sam, like he.
Well, yeah, I guess he misses his brother.
But I mean, usually, like when in the previous times
Yeah.
that they've come back to life, and part of that may be just they're like, "Oh, this is just par for the course. We come back to life."
It's an interesting dynamic though, because Dean is now the one that's like, what's happening, huh? And Sam is just like, here's what a hunter would do this, blah, blah, blah. But Sam is like in control, and
a version of Sam we're not used to.
In this scene we learn that Sam says that he's been hunting these jinn or whatever
for the last few weeks.
Because that's what the hallucination was. A jinn poisoned him, blah blah blah. And then Dean's like, "Wait, weeks? How long have you been back?" And he's like, "Most of it. It's been a whole year. Basically, like as soon as last season ended, I've been back."
Yeah. And Dean obviously gets extremely upset.
Yeah, he's like, "What the fuck?" And Sam's like, "You got out."
Yeah, he's like, I wanted you to be out. That's what you wanted.
That classic sacrifice.
Let's clock this scene because we will return to this later.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that out as my first marker in a court case.
Okay,
Your Honor.
Exhibit A.
Sam tells
the lawyer, not the judge, Richard. You silly fool.
Oh God, I don't know how.
Objection, idiot.
You don't know how. You don't know how Canadian law works.
Yeah, it is. Everybody's fine, and they apologize.
Sorry. Actually, I mean, legally, sorry is not an admission of guilt in
That's
Canada.
new.
You say you're sorry, and then
That's
get out
new.
of here.
No,
Come
no,
over and let me tousle your hair first.
This is a 100% true thing. People say sorry in Canada so frequently that it has like legally been deemed not an admission of guilt.
That's a new
Nice.
thing. It's awesome.
That's some cultural self-awareness that is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Love it.
Also, I feel like that is a law that Americans are not supposed to know about.
Sam tells Dean that he's been hunting with their mom's family, the Campbells.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, but I found like a group to hunt with because he's like, I'm not going solo.
Bruce.
Soup.
And then, yeah, you meet them and we meet them and they are the Campbells. And they're like third cousins. And then Sam was like something twice removed, whatever. So the point is like far enough away we could fuck them.
Remember when they found all the Homer relatives and they were all like weird variations of Homer?
Yeah.
This feels like a similar kind of thing where they just were like, what were some of the original designs for the boys early in the series?
Yeah, here's Midwest Homer. Here's Cowboy Homer.
And then the big reveal is that Grandpa Samuel Campbell is also alive and is leading this sort of family group.
Sidebar. Who dat?
We're still in court.
So in previous seasons, there have been time travel episodes where Dean has gone back to like when his parents were young, like to right when like Mary got pregnant or whatever. And you meet Samuel and his wife, Deanna, who are Mary's parents. So
that's
they're,
right.
They're maternal. They're maternal.
I was unaware that they had a mom. Like I just
the whole series kicks off with their mom dying.
Yeah, that's the very first scene.
But Johnny Quest.
Yeah. So
yeah, except for I don't think in Johnny Quest that she gets burned up alive.
So we have seen Samuel before. But it's not been for a while, and it was like in the 70s. It was like time travel.
And he was making out with his daughter.
Well, he was possessed by a demon, but yes.
Not the first time incest has been around this series.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
But yeah, goes there.
Samuel Campbell appears and tells Dean that he was the one who brought the family together, and that he was pulled out of heaven.
Yeah, he says whatever pulled Sam up out of hell pulled me down, and we don't know what it is yet, and we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
Sam was locked out of heaven.
Sam and Samuel tell Dean that Jinn were hunting them to take revenge for their fallen brethren.
Yeah, the Jinn that from like whatever seasons ago that Sam and Dean killed.
That's right. Dean and Sam hurry towards his home because he believes that Lisa and Ben are probably in danger then.
Yeah.
Forgetting that they went to the movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird sloppy plot hole in this episode.
Or it's like, I thought you were
just shocked me.
I thought you were seeing Rio. It has a 70-minute runtime. I didn't know you were seeing Green Lantern. It runs for almost 2 hours.
Yeah. 70% is just shots of the
Dean
dad dying.
did not assume that they'd go see Green Lantern, so he's like, well, it's got to be about 80. That's a standard anime.
Do you know what? There's also a Pirates of the Caribbean movie that's out at that time. That's
probably went
a Dead Man's Chest.
That's probably a 2 hour plus.
Is that Dead Man's Chest?
No, it's probably later than that. It's probably it's probably Stranger Tides.
Wow. Oh yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah,
because that's the one that also kind of ate shit and cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they were told that a hunter was sent already to that house to take care of it, but Dean doesn't trust him.
Yeah, Samuel's like, I got a guy watching them, and of course, by the time they get there,
over there.
The guy gets so red shirted, he's just fucking dead.
Yeah, they're not even like,
the only shot of the actor is him as a dead body.
Yes. Yeah. No one she has any remorse for this guy's death.
Do you think this guy is supposed to be another cousin, or that they've just like outsourced to someone else? Because everyone so far working on this team is a family member of some description. Samuel's like, I've got a guy. just dead. Nobody talks about him. No one.
He's adopted. It's fine.
2011, the smartphone is starting to normalize, and so we're starting to get apps, and one of them was, Goon Order, where you order somebody who you just need to go do some sort of like hench work.
A weird plot for season 3 of Westworld.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh man. Just when I'm like, can't get more indifferent. They're just like, oh yeah.
Yeah. The first 2 seasons were great.
App subplot.
Yep. So to find they find that this guy's dead, and Dean and Sam then look over the house and find nothing. And Dean starts freaking out because he's just like, oh shit.
Yeah. Lisa! Lisa!
Shit. I completely forgot that I am the one who told them to leave, but 2 scenes ago.
Yeah. Yes. And she shows up. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, this also kind of just plays into Dean's like erraticness though right now, where he's not even thinking straight.
To her credit, she shows up and she goes, "We were at the movies, like you said." Yeah. Lisa actually has a few scenes of like saying what I've been thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, she's the most competent character in the show, without question.
Like she even says stuff. She even says stuff I was complaining about.
Yeah.
In the finale about like, why would she even take him in or whatever? Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they do again, this is the thing Supernatural does, which it goes, if you have a question, it'll probably get answered. Yeah. So Dean immediately goes like, Ben, go, like, everybody go get your shit, pack up, we're leaving. And Lisa's just like, I know that this guy is crazy, but he's so fucking hot and has the best dick in town.
He has a dick so good, I thought about it for 11 years.
It's true. The Dean. So she's just like, hey, why don't we just take a second? Ben, that's fine. You can go pack up. That's probably valid.
Yeah.
Like she does immediately. She still trusts that this guy's a hunter and like.
But I think what sells it for her is when she sees Sam and then she's like, oh, well, fuck.
Yeah. Isn't that guy dead?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys like resurrect a lot. You said something about that in between passionate lovemaking, but like, I think
Dean, I like the idea that Dean is working through his plans as.
Yeah. But Dean takes the family to Bobby's.
Yeah.
Where
and they haven't seen each other basically since for a year.
And Bobby does a great piece of acting where he's basically like, oh shit, if you're here, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And then Sam shows up behind and Dean is like, hey, surprise, look who's here.
And Bobby's like, hey Sam.
Yeah.
And Dean's like, everybody fucking know except me.
Dean tries
let's plant this as piece of evidence number 2.
Okay, so this is the second time somebody says you got out.
Yeah.
We wanted to let you have that.
Yes. So let's take note of that again. This is
Exhibit
the second
B.
time it has occurred.
Yeah. Exhibit B.
Dean tries to tell them both of how horrible his life was for the past year, knowing that his brother was trapped in a box in hell.
But also, there's a lot going on in this speech that I really enjoyed. Like, Dean is not only saying that his life was hell, but they're saying, we wanted you to have that good life. He's like, what kind of good life? I was having nightmares. I was like a fucking crazy guy with a gun in this house with this kid.
It's like, I just did this because this is what Sam told me to do.
You told me to do it, and I like ruined their life for a year.
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And there's a interesting, like,
let's pin this as part 2.5.
B2.
All of these threads are kind of part of Dean's thing this episode.
Yeah.
But I like that kind of like that nuance, and it then speaks again to like Dean going through the emotions, sitting at the bar and stuff like that. As Dean is like, I'm doing it because I'm supposed to. Yes, there are good elements of this that I like and that I enjoy, but like it's, you know, Dean still views himself as like the guy bringing everyone down.
Yeah.
You know, like to have him have anything good, everyone else has to suffer kind of thing.
So I'm going to pause here and throw out like an interesting parallel of a story that took the opposite direction as this.
Right.
Did either of you guys read Bill Willingham's Fables, the Vertigo comic book?
Just a little bit of it.
Okay. I never finished it because it's too long.
Yes.
But I read like 19 volumes worth, which feels like a healthy cross sample.
That's a lot, yeah.
I saw I had like 8 more and was just like, I have to be done. I cannot keep going. But it's a phenomenal series. Like I've talked to every person I've ever talked to is like, you just sort of figure out where you have to get off, but like at the same time you enjoy the journey.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Who did we have on to talk about Fables?
Dave Apkarian.
Yeah, Dave.
Oh,
Exile.
there you go.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that is incredibly interesting about that comic is that it gets very comfortable letting its main cast slowly shift and evolve. And I think it's something that I like from being a big X-Men fan is like, I have always been one of those people who's like, I love when people leave the team and new people come in. And by the end of a run, like it's a totally different group of people. Like Fables, Bigby Wolf is the main character when the series starts. But at a certain point, Bigby Wolf has kids and a wife and a life and stuff like that. And like hits a point where he's like, yo, I gotta change, like, because my life will never stop being this series of nightmares unless I like choose to pick a new life. And then does. And then him and his people, his family are just out of the book for a long time.
Right.
And they're not like not involved, but it becomes the story of these other characters that you've also come to know and love. And so by the time those people are gone, it's not like the series feels less. It feels like the keys have been handed to a different person.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to take Dean's acting job away, obviously, but there is like, I think there would have been something inherently interesting if like you let him not go back like that. And I think that narratively it can be done. A lot of shows make stuff like that work in interesting ways.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
I agree.
A side piece to the point I'll get to at the end here.
So Bobby and Sam basically respond to Dean and say that like you may have gone through a nightmare, but that's like the best possible case scenario for a hunter.
Also Bobby basically saying I won't hand you a drink.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's just like, yeah, I know your life sucks, but that's the best version of somebody who got out.
He's like, congratulations, we're all still stuck in this thing where we are dying, and it's a perfect parallel for like alcoholism or drug addiction, where like they're like, because I've known people who are still active addicts who are like, look, this person got out, like we can't hang together because like, I can't be the person who fucks up you doing what I can't do.
Exactly.
So I guess like maybe that's why I have such a weird angle on this. It's like coming from so much of the recovery world. Like I watched what Dean's going through and going like, oh, he is throwing away a year of good sobriety.
100%. And this is not the first time that they've made that parallel, I think, and this is probably not going to be the last either.
Right.
Dean then talks to Lisa and is like, after this conversation, he basically goes that he needs to leave them.
Yeah. And this is where...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is another one of those moments where Lisa says all the things I've been thinking. Where she talks, he was like, I've ruined your life. She's like, are you fucking kidding me? You saved the world. I expect you to be a little messed up, but like you're good with my son. You're someone he can look up to. You know,
fuck like a
you have just an enormous horse
like, also,
cock.
I love you, asshole.
Yeah.
Like so that's another on my list of things, within this case I'm making is like everybody is projecting onto Lisa, and Lisa gets absolutely no agency in her or her son's own life. There's just like a bunch of other people like making choices for her despite any input. And the one time she is allowed to speak, she's like, hey, I disagree with literally everything you guys are talking about. And it's profoundly hurtful the way people are sort of discarding me as a person.
This is how we know there's a female writer in charge.
I mean, big time. Yes. Yeah.
Lisa tells Dean that like the past year has been the happiest in her entire life, and that she wanted a good role model
like,
for her
what
son.
A profoundly fucking cruel thing. Like Sam and Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that like he's telling her how her life is, and she's going, no, like, do you think that I wouldn't have kicked you out if I didn't want this? Like,
but it's the perfect deconstruction of that like martyr complex thing that all of these kind of like hero characters have,
all
right?
Drug addicts have.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, also just like a thing that like a lot of people do in relationships in general, which is like make assumptions how somebody else is feeling without talking to them.
But that's also it's always a tool to make things easier for you.
Yes.
You claim it's easier for others, but it's always a tool to shield yourself.
This is three guys who have been in therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a real fucking long trail of fucking skeletons leading to opinions in this episode.
Don't look into them.
Please.
Three-layer rainbow of people like, I've learned better now.
Yep. Then Sam, Dean, Samuel, Gwen, Christian, and Mark plan to bait.
Right, those are their names.
Sure. Sam, Dean, Samuel, and the rest plan to bait the Jinn with Sam and Dean.
Well, no, Samuel and them are like, we don't even know where we're going to find these Jinn. We'll be patient. And the guy's like, yeah, Dean, you've been out of it for a while. We're leaving to the professionals. And Dean's like, well, you stupid sons of bitches. Jinn are a lot easier to try when you got some fucking bait.
So why don't we
go? It's almost like I'm a professional.
Yeah.
I kind of like Dean getting his groove back a little bit. Definitely. I know it's runs totally counter to this other narrative we're setting up about him falling off the wagon.
But when he's high, he's so fucking funny.
But I kind of love it when he drinks.
He's the most creative he's ever been. Some would say he's better that way.
Well, and also like love these big dick and hunters who are like, hey, I know we're on the same team and we're worried about a monster, but I'm gonna be kind of a dick.
I'm going to kind of have the energy that every fucking authority figure in the series for the last 5 years has had. Then
they've all lived, so it's great.
Yeah. Go all the way back to episode 2 of the whole series with the Wendigo, and they hire just like a random like
wilderness
guy to bring them through the woods. He's like, I know these woods, and like cut to Wendigo ripping them apart.
Yeah. So they decide they're going to go. They're returning to Lisa's house, and they're going to use Sam and Dean as bait. Samuel tells Dean that the Campbells have been hunting even during the times of the Mayflower.
Yeah, this is the first hint we get at like
you're really white, son.
A bigger ancestry.
Yeah,
like we already knew that Samuel knew it, like Mary's family was in it, but
gives a bit of credence to the new spin-off.
Is the idea that like so that seems odd to me that like 6 seasons in they're like this has been happening for a long time.
So
like,
this isn't the first.
Otherwise, like we picked up in the late 70s and finally like someone should deal with eternal monsters.
I think what I mean more though is that it's like a family like
business
legacy, a lineage, kind of a piece. Yeah, I mean presumably people have been hunting the whole time, but the idea that it's like our family, like this is our charge going back to whenever,
and we get the first hint of that a few seasons ago when they go back in time and realize that his mother's family side were hunters.
A pilgrim wearing a leather jacket.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, the buckle is
just a pilgrim with a big fucking gun.
Yeah. I'm gonna get you, werewolf.
I put a bunch of salt in this butter I'm churning.
We did good.
That was jokes.
Mark, who is apparently one of the cousins, informs them that the 3 Jinn were on the trees waiting for the brothers alone. A thing I desperately wish they had shown.
They did not have the budget to show. I was sort of waiting because the second you show that, it's insane.
Yes. Especially because the Jinn look like humans.
Yeah, but then
it would just be 3 adults sitting in the old apple tree.
I wish so.
But then Dean goes in and it's like, you idiots, they're not going to hit us when you're all here. Yeah. You guys got to get out of here.
Yeah. So they stay behind while the other hunters leave. They instruct Sam and Dean to call them as soon as the Jinn show up.
Yeah.
Dean notices that suddenly...
Why wouldn't they just hide around the corner?
I mean, I know.
Because the Jinn are like, well, they're obviously leaving. There's clearly no follow-up.
Yeah. Dean notices that his neighbors suddenly are choking and immediately rushes towards them.
Yeah, Sid and whoever Sid has been avoiding by going to the bar.
Poor Sid, just doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, except for being sweaty. I'm surprised that they could get his hands around his neck.
Yeah. Whoa.
They had paper towels on their bodies.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. They were prepared. These are smart Jinn. And he immediately rushes towards them with what we find is the antidote to this poison that Samuel had created, which is the reason why.
Yeah, they weren't syringes full of cum.
I mean, they still could have been.
Yeah, that's the antidote.
I have my own special recipe.
Just as it says in the scripture, a Jinn cannot handle cum.
Scripture gets weird.
He finds both, and Sid and his wife are already dead.
Yeah.
Suddenly, a male Jinn grabs and holds him, while a female Jinn, the waitress from the bar, comes and passes poison.
Well, we kind of had the implication of this earlier because when they were talking about the poison, they were like it's through like physical contact or something, and I like that they've also
evolved version.
They've also upgraded the Jin effects because the first Jin episode, didn't like Mackenzie Gray have to be like he shaved his head. He had to be in Jin makeup for like 4 days. They were these like semi-permanent tattoos they put on him. Like,
yeah, it was crazy. You had to walk around Vancouver.
But this is just like when they're using their magic.
It's fun because you can walk around Vancouver and go, guys, I'm shooting Cloud Atlas.
Oh no. It's the True.
I mean, listen, Cloud Atlas, I have complicated feelings about, but it gave us Hugh Grant as a cannibal, and I was like, well, this is kind of dope.
Somebody wasn't reading between the lines on 9 months, I see.
Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, Sam is attacked.
Dare you to have me not make a reference to something you say, Reed.
Fair. Sam is attacked by the third Jin, who he kills with Dean's golf club.
Yeah. Like a lot.
Oh, because they all start busting his balls after. Okay, wait. Let me put another flag in here real quick. They get into the house.
Yeah.
And all the asshole hunter people start busting his balls, despite all of them, quote unquote, being committed to him being out. And then Samuel, also, who had just made a whole thing about him being out, then also takes a dig about the golf clubs. And it's just like, well, what are you guys doing then? Like, because
do you want to make her out?
You guys were like, yeah, like this. They are starting to truly like emotionally fuck with him in a kind of abusive way.
1,000%.
I mean, I just also want to throw something out there. The last time we dealt with a Jin, they needed something specific to kill it. Right?
Yeah.
It was like a
Jin's cum.
No, it was like
itself its own cum.
Yeah, you have to
feed it its own.
This is why none of your pilots went, Richard.
It's heavy on the cum.
Wasn't it like a silver knife in some kind of blood or something like that they needed to kill the Jin? In this one, Sam just beats him to death with a driver.
Who would have thought? Yeah.
But I mean, like, did I miss a trick here?
I don't know. Good question.
It's like, oh, those are my solid silver golf clubs that I use.
Dean hallucinates that Azazel is killing Lisa.
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah, in the manner of Mary Winchester or Jessica.
Samuel
or whatever.
does stab the male Jin. So,
but not the one that Sam was beating. Sam beats one to death with a golf club, and that's it. You don't see that one anymore.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that also works. I don't know.
Yeah, it turns out the lore was incomplete. It's either a silver knife dipped in blood or
beat it to death.
A golf club, a Titleist.
Yeah, specifically. Samuel, also a CCM hockey stick works too.
Yeah. Sure would.
Yeah. Samuel asks Sam to go find Dean while he faces the female.
I love Samuel assumes the knife fight pose that Tommy Lee Jones has in Under Siege, and I kind of loved that. I was into that.
Yeah, I was into that.
I was like, oh, this guy has fucked someone up with a knife before.
Yeah. While they stare each other down, Christian Campbell comes in and places a bag over the Jin, though, and ties her up.
Yeah.
And says, like, before the guys get back.
And Samuel's like, get her out of here before the guys come back. It's like, they're kidnapping a Jin?
Yep. It's a weird plot line. So, and that's kind of the end of it. And
yeah. The end of the adventure portion.
Yeah. The next day, Dean tells Sam that he's going to go back to Lisa and Bend.
Yeah.
And here we are at my court case.
I figured
Please
this
continue.
And that he's changed his mind. Sam advises Dean to rethink, as he thinks that Dean will only put them in danger. Dean replies by saying that...
Yeah, I mean, like, Sam's being a piece of shit here. And to Kyle's point, Samuel was also
moment.
like... Yeah.
Tell me.
This is where I turn on Sam. Because the beginning of this conversation, he is in support of the thing that he has quote unquote, for a year wanted for Dean.
Yeah.
And the moment Dean wants it, Sam immediately flips and goes, actually, what I wanted was for you to do this, which is so fucked up.
So I'll say...
Also, we should also say, in case we didn't say it explicitly, when we meet Samuel and the cousins. Samuel says, I would have come to get you right away, but Sam told us to leave you alone. He was pretty adamant about that. And then later, Samuel is like, Dean, you're a hunter. You got to get in on this shit.
So it's really
now
just,
Sam is...
It's really just Sam and a little bit of Bobby that has been trying to keep him out.
Yeah. Otherwise, people don't give a shit about Dean's well-being.
Yeah, but also, like, Samuel hangs out with 3 people who give him a bunch of shit and are shitty. Like, and Samuel's supposed to be dead. So, like, his vote should carry no weight. The 2 people who love him wanted him to be happy.
Yes. I will say they justify this move in a few episodes.
They do.
When they kill Lisa.
No. They justify Sam's actions and words in a few episodes.
I agree. It's weird.
You're totally right. Everything that you've pointed out is 100% right.
Because it's just like, it is literally a plot line where ultimately, like, Dean is being sort of like pushed back into being a part of like an abusive, unhealthy world.
1000%.
Completely.
They justify it. God, I can't wait for you to watch. One more.
It's going to be so weird when he eventually goes back and watches everything that happened in between.
I got one more season.
Oh, God, I'm so excited.
So Dean replies saying that he's already put them in danger, but now he can't leave them alone unprotected.
Which is valid.
Yes.
And smart.
If he were to just leave them on their own, they clearly would immediately become a target.
This is also the equivalent, to bring comic books into it, because that's obviously what I do. This is the equivalent of someone finally realizing that their secret identity is not, it's for them. It doesn't actually protect other people.
Yeah.
Protecting other people is like being there to protect them.
Yes. It's being accountable.
Yeah.
It's
so
the Spider-Man Matt Murdock conundrum, where like they are addicted to tell. It's Matt Murdock's situation where he is addicted to telling people and then watching them immediately be killed.
Yep.
So, are you a lady I've had 2 rooftop encounters with? Let me show you my identity and let me reveal to all the people who want to kill me your personal information.
I mean, look, if you're
the second you fuck Matt Murdock, you are doxxed.
I mean, if you're looking for discreet sex, telling people who you are so that they then die is a way to like cut off.
Are you endorsing it?
No, I'm just saying that it's a thing.
What the fuck, man?
Anyways, so Sam says that he could really use Dean's help because
after 4 different situations.
Yeah, I bought this 2-4. I can't finish it all by myself.
Yes, because of how Dean rushed out to help Sid and his wife, while he himself wouldn't have done that. A thing that is not like Sam at all.
Yeah, Sam's like, I wouldn't have helped them, and he's like, you would. And Sam's like, I wouldn't.
Yeah, which is interesting. Sam then tells Dean that he cares a lot about people unlike himself.
Yeah. Dean also tries to do a thing in this scene where he's like, you should take the car. She should be hunting. And Sam's like, I kind of have my car set up the way I want.
Which I like.
I caught this thing, and you probably have a note about it too, but Sam's driving a Mustang, right?
Which Charger.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No,
I thought it was a Mustang because that was...
That was going to be originally the car that they were going to drive on the show. This is actually an 06 SRT8 Dodge Charger.
He's driving a Charger. Okay. It is cooler than I want it to be.
The Dodge Charger, an affordable muscle car for the man who can't afford muscle cars.
Sam is reasonable.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were anti-man of the people vehicles.
Anyways,
I mean, Richard is so not a man of the people. He like scoffs if people don't stay at the fucking like 5-star hotel when they go travel.
The Fairmont's not a 5-star; it's a 4.5.
Really slumming it.
It's like their champagne is of a poor quality.
Yeah, not a good year.
Next, you're going to tell me I should be taking public transit.
Yeah,
you guys have it.
Ugh. Anyways, Sam drives off and Dean waves goodbye, not knowing what to say. And their boys are not back together at the end of this episode. The way that the series usually goes.
Yeah.
That is the end of the episode.
Wow.
Was this an unpopular episode when it aired?
So it's funny you say that. Sort of I do have a note.
No one?
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, let's have it.
This is the lowest rated season premiere opening episode as of like at least by 2018.
Up to now.
Yeah. And is the first episode after Kripke's original 5-year run. So it's like, it's a really bad start. It was a really poorly reviewed episode. And this season in general, as we said in the previous episode, is sort of the weakest season.
Interesting.
So this is as bad as it gets.
I would have thought that like season 15 is just sort of like a lot of like guys shrugging shoulders.
Season 15 is so fucking good.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy.
The last two seasons are so good. They have no right to be so good.
In the middle.
12.
Season 6 is a dip. 7 is a climb, but they're not out of it yet. 8 through 11 are great. 12 and 13 are kind of 14 and 15 are amazing.
Yeah, unassailable. Except, well, not completely unassailable, but mostly.
I wanted to we've talked about a bunch of things here. I wanted to just debut a new segment for this season.
Oh my God.
Do it.
So this
is
Do
the
it.
fuck you Samuel Campbell asshole of the episode.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I'd like us all to pick who was the
this.
biggest asshole this episode.
I mean,
It doesn't have to be Samuel Campbell. I just named the segment after him because I think he's
It's
an asshole.
Sam.
yeah, I was gonna say. I'm assuming Kyle thinks it's Sam.
So Kyle's saying Sam.
I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna cousin. I'm gonna say because all of them were pieces of shit.
Oh, just any cousin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a weird one out here. I think it's Sid.
What?
That piece of shit.
What? What did Sid do?
He's just that sweaty ass, just like trying. He wants to creep on the waitress at the bar, but she's not giving him. He's like, Dean, tell me.
This is how you know
he's
Eric
being a piece of
Kripke,
shit.
You know how that Eric Kripke is no longer writing on this show because Sid would have been a complete fucking piece of shit.
You know, and he's like spying on Dean, running around.
He was running. He was just on his run.
He was jogging and saw his neighbor aiming a gun at a dog.
narking on Dean being totally normal.
Speaks volumes about you.
Yeah, fuck you, Sid.
All right, this is the Samuel Campbell honorary asshole of the episode.
Asshole of the episode. I like this segment.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, you are our guest. Tell us a summary of how you feel about this episode and a review of 5, whatever you'd like to choose.
I've got complicated feelings about it because I think it is the best. It is the chillest premiere and it has the most character work in it. But at the same time, what is frustrating is that they are undoing the character work that I find most compelling in the episode is also what the show is clearly trying to advertise as bad in a way that is sort of like fascinating because it's creating a weird gray area that I can't tell if is like intentional or just sort of like slightly tone deaf.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it and it's the most I've liked Dean in an episode.
Interesting.
Dean's always a little bit too like protests too much. I'm a real tough guy in a way where it's like, sure, buddy. All right. Because it's part of it's seemingly supernatural conundrum where like they never meet people who do what they do who outclass them. So it's sort of hard sometimes to like find a through line, especially on Dean, because he's a little bit invincible.
Right.
And so I really like this one in particular because it forces Dean to be a person.
Right.
And it sort of illustrates the hunter life to a certain extent in a way that I think is deconstructing what the first 5 seasons are in a way that I think is really interesting for a show that is like, oh, we thought we might be done and now we're going, what the fuck do we do? And I think the really obvious first thing is like, well, how do we shake up their existence in a way that has not been shaken up?
Right.
And I wish that they'd gone a little further with it. It sounds like they kind of double back from that real quick. Which is again not the show's fault. At a certain point, like you don't go 15 seasons on the CW by changing shit up. And so
sort of.
Oh.
and so I think that there's a lot of good about it. And for me, it sets up interesting stuff that like I think only because I sort of like know in my heart is not where it goes, holds it back a little bit because it is one of those ones where I'm just like the logic to me and it is backwards in a way that is sort of like then hard to sort of like justify a lot of characters' actions.
Right.
But overall, I think it's also some of the like best acting, especially Gina's done that scene with him, at least on the staircase, I think is really great. I think the way that they are able to, and again, I could see how like fans of the show do not love this, but the idea of seeing how crazy all of this stuff looks from the outside, you know, and how unsexy that life is in a lot of ways, that you are sort of this like absurd thing. Yeah. And so I really, really loved it as a sort of like, you know, and it's interesting. I had no idea about the showrunner flipping, but that makes all the sense in the world, because it is very much this person putting their mark on going like, okay, like we've seen what that version of the show is like. Now here's, you know, a new interesting kind of flip on it that does stuff. It's interesting to me, and I guess it shouldn't be, but I guess the timing kind of clocks out the same. Is like, it's strange to me that a show like this would be like, new showrunner, this can't possibly get that good, because like I just think of Doctor Who. I mean, and like Doctor Who shifted showrunners, and again, I'm more of a Davies guy, and I really like the Eccleston season probably the most of any of the revival stuff.
Bonkers.
But, me too. I'm bonkers. Pro Ninth Doctor.
Insane, but anyway,
yeah, love them. The every part of it's the best. And so, you know, when you switch to what's his face,
Moffat
Talk or whatever, there we go. And you know, I think it's a similar thing where like there would be skepticism because like this guy didn't do any of this stuff, and instead it becomes the most popular version of itself.
Some of the most transcendent writing they've ever had, but it's fine.
Yeah. And so it's fine.
That's Doctor's best Doctor.
It's you know, they're all fun.
Capaldi did what Eccleston fucking started, but did way better. Anyways.
Yeah. But by that time the show is wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
You know, BBC charm show, and you know, kind of away from kind of the fun of the T. Davies stuff, where it's a little bit more of like a
anyway. Yeah. Get to your review.
Like this guy fucking gets it. Get out of here, Richard.
I like when you guys didn't agree with each other.
It's just there's certain things where we're like, bring forth the boring bummer version.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There you go. You just spoke right to the heart of it, I guess.
Yeah. It's it's the Star Trek conundrum, except for like Star Trek saw Doctor Who and was like, oh, we'll do that then, but much less fun.
Yes.
What if it was Doctor Who but the bleakest shit in the world?
I mean, anyways.
But so I would say I give it 4 stars. I think that
wow,
like the fact that I disagree with some of it does not make it inherently bad, because that would be reviewing things as a fan and not as a piece of art and something to actually critically look at.
Yeah.
And so I think that it is an incredibly successful episode, and especially in the context of a show that is having to, by design, do a reboot into something else. And I think that like they do it with a level of security. I mean, part of the security is that like, don't worry, in 3 episodes we will be back to normal kids. But like the fact that it has the confidence to not have to have the boys popping into the Impala at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
an AC
it's a ballsy move.
Is I think a very much a like statement of intent, and not only a statement of intent of a new showrunner, but also a statement of intent of like, hey, the show's got to keep going. And after 5 years, we cannot just kind of keep giving you 22 episodes of the same thing. Even if that's what you're looking for, we've got to shake shit up or the show will end. And I think that like you don't go another 10 seasons if you don't do something like this.
1,000%. Yeah. And I mean, this is the thing that inherently the show has to deal with, which is that like, it's like, okay, once you've done it all and the plan went forward, you can't just like, I don't know in what universe exists that they get into this season and it's not a hard reset like this. Like, I think
go ahead.
I think that you have to pull back and hit a baseline. And I think like if season 6 doesn't really have a whole lot going on, it kind of needs to do that.
Well, and I think there's also, I mean, without getting into the broader conversation about like media literacy and like and storytelling and things like that, I think there's like a problem where people conflate like quieting some of like the action or like the those pieces with the whole thing slowing to a halt. It's like we're shifting lenses, and like to some of what Kyle was saying, there's a sort of Last Jedi thing happening in this episode where it's like you thought that the continuation of Dean's story is like the continuation of Luke Skywalker. He's this badass that can do no wrong and he's got cool abs, but the story is actually that he's like sad and flawed and makes mistakes, and maybe the whole thing you thought was cool is actually horrifying. It's a war after all. And I think there's that thing happening in here, and so I think probably some of that reception is people butting up against the idea that like, but the thing I like it's now being shown to be like not 100% cool all the time. And it's like, yeah, but that's interesting. It's good storytelling. It's just like, I think if you tie your identity into a thing too much, it becomes kind of a problem.
Like, a rise and fall of action is not only logical but necessary.
Yes.
I think that's sometimes the problem with some of these things is like, if you just keep blasting bigger and bigger problems with no rests or shifts or analysis, it kind of becomes gray noise. I will go back to an example I lightly touched on earlier, but I think like the best example of this is like, I don't know that any human on Earth would describe Dragon Ball Z as boring or slow.
Right.
Like, especially when you cut it down to the Kai version. Like don't come at me with your fucking long edits, people. But I think that one of the things that show format and story-wise does really well is that they will do resets and they will go back to doing character-centric stuff and let the new threat naturally rise into a presence over time as you're getting all this great, delicious character development stuff for extended periods of time.
Totally.
And sometimes that's the best stuff because you are getting all this information that by the time you get to the next big threat and things are at their darkest, not only are you like invested in these characters in a whole new way, because it's not like they're just, oh, our hero's got to defeat it, but you're just like, man, fucking Vegeta's got a kid now. Like he can't, like little Trunks needs a dad, so he can't be like sitting around getting killed on this thing, even though he's the kind of guy who will go and die in a fight for glory. And you have all those kinds of things where you watch, a character like Piccolo evolve from like a villain to a guy who's like Gohan's actual father. And like and I think that like spending those periods with characters across any show, I think is incredibly necessary. And this show is flirting with that in something like this in a way that I think is really healthy and is something that like sometimes the lack of maturity in fandom is this thing of just like, it's weird. It's such a, man, I'm going to be pretentious as shit towards the end of this episode. It's a very like American thing of like, why would you slow down or do anything besides go 100% and eat all the things and like make sure it's the biggest in the world and stuff. And it's like, I mean, okay, but like that is like, I'm not against maximalism. I think some people do incredibly brilliant things with that, but I think it's also like, I put something like that, like an endless explosion of crazy stuff, kind of in the same category. And I'm sorry, I'm doing a full tilt ramble here. Of the same way, like not elevated horror, but specific types of horror go like, oh, we don't need violence or jump scares or any of these things. Like we're doing this our own way. But then you made a boring thing. And if it's not the best version of that, then you just made something that like the two things that might have given you a little bit of a like, well, the movie was boring as shit and the plot wasn't very good, but there was some cool kill scenes. So I will look back on it fondly. Whereas if this is, I'm like, well, the movie was pretentious and thought it was better than me, but at least it's not very good.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think that this show is also setting this new tonality of like introspection that hasn't
Which
really
I love.
100%. And I think it's the thing that they take throughout the rest of the series, which is like, look, you get some crazy shit and then we need to think about that crazy shit. And also, I mean, say what you will, I mean, I have a lot of criticism for the Marvel universe, but a thing that it's pretty decent about is like acknowledging shit that happened elsewhere in that universe and like going like, oh yeah, you can't just like do anything and like there's no consequences.
I would argue that Marvel has a similar thing to Supernatural though, where it's like, just remember, downtime means you've failed.
Sure.
Right.
I think that it's
the problem I have with the most recent Spider-Man is I think it's a great time. And then at the end, they're like, just remember though, Spider-Man, instead of being fun, needs to be a miserable martyr at all times.
I mean, the comics do that a bit too, but I think that what I think that they're starting and showing the audience is like, hey, like, I mean, it's Iron Man 3. It's like, look, we've done a fucking lot. We need to like pull him back for a little bit and like have him
I know what you're saying.
reset. And I like that piece of this, but also like this has shown that the events that have up to this point are long term affecting Dean.
Yeah.
And will always stay with him. I mean, you're gonna see the like fall of Dean over the next like 10 seasons because he's just gonna get sadder and sadder because it's like.
But that's what happens to tough leather jacket guys.
Yeah. Yes, and
when your entire personality is I have a cool jacket and I've got a tough job and I'm not nice. Like that is a real great recipe for dying alone.
Yes, and they do not like revel in that. Over the next few seasons, they don't show him as being always the cool guy. They give him moments of like brevity for sure, and they show different parts of his personality and like make him more of a three-dimensional
well-defined character. Yeah.
Well, and he will be, and I think that's what's going to be great. Is that this is the point where I think he transforms into much more of a three-dimensional character. I think that's getting Kripke out of there.
7 or 8 more fucking Sam deaths, and you're going to finally see him really.
I mean,
hard.
Here's the thing. Like you brought it up really well in your sort of review about The Boys, which is like, and why Kripke I think is so perfect for taking that show on is that Kripke's got a pretty mean-spirited mentality, and so like. He's taken that into the show whenever he's come into it for the last few seasons. He's pretty mean-spirited, and I think that's why like him and the boys match up so well, I think. But him leaving gives them an opportunity to go, okay, let's look at this with a potentially like reframed and more evolved mindset. I mean, luckily like women get involved with the show and bring women into the show, and we get strong female characters. Like it's changing for the better. This is a weak season, but it's instilling the like
it's like
foundation.
In sports, like sometimes you have to have a
rebuilding season
as you rebuild stuff, and it just totally has the energy of a rebuilding season where you're like, there's pieces getting thrown in here that'll be good eventually, but we got to give them draft picks first.
Exactly.
Totally. So what do you give this episode?
I'm giving this 3 out of a possible 5 vials of cum.
That's it, eh? Just 3.
Yeah, I think it does what it's intending to do. The acting
Richard
is really
ate
good.
Earlier.
Yeah. I wanted to cure myself.
I got a hot take here. This is a just across the board great episode.
Really?
The performances are all good.
Agreed.
Yeah, the monster is like kind of throwaway, but the action is good.
Monster.
There's good like yeah, well, exactly. You know, people are being horrible, but it doesn't mean that like the episode is horrible. Like it's very compelling.
Agreed.
It's got a great engine to it. You know, there's all these awesome little moments and devices. That Bob Seger montage thing fucking works. You know,
oh yeah,
Dean's hallucination and how that kind of evolves a little bit. His relationship with Lisa, his weird kind of like he and Sam trying to figure out what their relationship is. All of this talk about his like inner life and the perspective of Sam and Bobby and Dean, and then up against Lisa being like, I'm a person with agency, god damn it. Like this episode does so many things right. This episode is 100% 5 for me.
Yeah.
This is I'd give this 5. I'd give this 5 shed possums.
Wow.
Nice. It's so funny you say that fucking Last Jedi thing, because you're absolutely right. That's so thoroughly the vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like this. You guys used to disagree on everything.
No, we're becoming one.
Yeah.
I think it's because we're not talking about DC. I think that's
Supernatural's bringing us together.
It's the other podcast where we fight.
Yeah.
I need to get back on the Morrison Batman. I'd love to come do that at some point, but I'm only like a third in because then I got distracted by Halloween scary stories.
When you're through it, just let me know.
Yeah, I will, because it's not what I expected, which has been interesting. Although I have to read Final Crisis next, which is why I stopped.
There's also an interesting thing happening in the Batman title right now where they've brought back elements of Morrison's like Batman R.I.P. They brought back like the Zur-En-Arr as like a mental like device of his. Yeah,
it's weird because I enjoy it, and I feel bad that I'm ruining your podcast with your other podcast. It is interesting because it's the exact opposite of the Snyder run, but I love it about the same.
Yeah, fair enough.
Amazing.
Yeah,
we have to finish this because we won't be able to stop.
Yeah, you're correct. You're making the right call.
Kyle, thank you for coming on the show. Please let everybody
Always
know
a pleasure.
where they can find you, and we can't wait for season 7.
I am at Kyle Clark is Rad on Twitter and Instagram. Feel free to drop me a line if you got thoughts on this. Please be nice. I have a lot of anxiety. And yeah, if you follow, that's Twitter. I literally just have to talk to people about podcast bullshit. Instagram, you can see where I got show dates and stand-up clips
and art
and some of my artwork that I've been doing. And then I have I'll do like 2, like, because there's always too much bullshit. But the 2 I'll do. 1, This Is Rad, my podcast. You probably have heard of it if you listen to the show, but it's people come on and talk about things that they love. And it's very fun. And we are a mere month away from Radtober.
Yeah, baby.
All Halloween and scary block, which is a lot of fun. I do a Halloween special at the end. It's got a bunch of scary stories I've written.
And we've totally prepared for this and written it and recorded it already.
Look, we're getting better. It's getting closer. Most of the stories are mostly written.
Hey,
that's pretty good.
But we have a crazy lineup of people this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's some real favorites and some of the funniest people in comedy and in comedy writing around coming out for it.
Hell yeah.
And then I also have a record label called Radland Records that I've released my records and many other people's through. It's a stand-up record. It's all digital.
Hell yeah, baby.
And I made a makeshift website because Richard is a successful and busy man. And so I had to build a thing. And so we are at radland-records.com, and it has all 7 records that we've released. There are 4 more that will be out either by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. We've recorded 3 new records from Ron Swallow and Andy Awancio and Quincy Johnson II. I'm doing another one with Matt Cole. 4 fantastic comedians, 4 very different comedians in style. So I really aim for kind of a diverse crew of folk in comedy styles and things like that. So yeah, radland-records.com, and you can go pick up all those records. It's links to Spotify and iTunes. And This Is Rad. And and then look for me on the season 7 episode of Ghostfacers.
Yeah.
After that, I will be allowed to watch the first 6 seasons of the series.
Can't fucking wait.
I'm so excited.
I feel like you guys are going to be bummed because, like, I'm not going to watch at the sheer level that I think you guys think I'm going to, but it's going to be my new editing podcast turning on and
One of us. One of us.
I know. Kyle watches TV sparingly.
True, and it's my God, so many episodes.
Good thing that there's 15 seasons of this one.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good watch while I'm falling asleep kind of show for a while there, which is, from what I understand, what it on Netflix is for most of the audience that watches it.
I mean, truly. If you want to continue the conversation about this episode, previous episodes, what's coming up this season or in the future, or you want to talk about Morrison's Batman, that also can happen all through our Patreon.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/ghostfacers. For only $1 a month, you get access to Angel Radio, our awesome community Discord server. People in there are so sweet and lovely, very supportive, and we're all sharing our love about supernatural and monsters. And sometimes people share very harrowing stories of seeing ghosts and stuff
also just
like that.
I ask you an incredibly
trauma.
Stupid question about it.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done a bit where you talk about supernatural, but you're actually talking about the 1990s Carlos Santana revival album?
I talk about that album a lot, but not here.
It's called Supernatural.
It is.
That album is.
You're a big
Anyways,
Maria guy.
If you listen, have me on This Is Rad, and we'll do a whole episode on that album because I have thoughts.
Don't threaten me with a good time because I will absolutely do that.
some fucking This Is Rad shit if I've ever heard it.
I'll fucking do it. Yeah. There's a song with Eagle Eye Cherry.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, dog.
Anyways, also if you have a note about a future episode or you just want to say hello, you can send us an email to ghostfacerspodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us for our various social media platforms.
Yeah, we're at GhostfacersPod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Don't forget to subscribe so you get our episode automatically in your feed every single week. And while you're there, why don't you give us a 5-star review? If it's not on Apple Podcast or probably like Facebook, just take a screenshot and send it to us. Also, if you want to show your support to the whole world, we have merch, ghostfacerspodcaststore.com. We've talked a lot about comics comic books in this episode, and that's because we have a whole other podcast you may have guessed, Dr. DC.
That's right, the Dr. DC podcast. We answer listener questions about the weird, wonderful world of DC. Kyle has been on a number of times. If you like the way that we talk about the lore of ghosts and monsters and
lawn care,
of course, and you want to hear how we talk about superheroes and how they maintain their lawns, then hop on over to that show.
You know what I mean?
Ooh.
All right, say goodbye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle.
Say goodbye, bitch.
Jerk.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast. Yeah, that was a good.
That
one,
was a good one.
Most analytical I feel like we've gotten on one.
Well, but it was a good one for it because there's a big paradigm shift for the show.
I don't want to use the word dean construction, but I think I should have said that on the episode.
Oh shit! Just take this bit and cut it in somewhere.
Put that at the very end.
I mean, that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Well, there you go.